What's up, everybody? It's Stuck in Carbonite, and today I want to talk about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, one of my favorite animated series ever, possibly my absolute favorite. If you didn't know, I am a super huge fan of Star Wars. I love the entire world. It's a great form of escapism for me. I just think the entire world is just beautiful and interesting, and you can see that my room is full of Star Wars crap. You can't even see my Black Series collection. It's over there. But absolutely love the world and the stories that are told, and I just think they are literally timeless classics, and they will just stand the test of time. And Star Wars is generational, and I think that this show really pays an homage to what came before, but also told new stories that respected those stories, if that makes sense. So without a doubt, I think that this show really was a success. And it might have not have been seen as a success as it was airing, but I think now, looking back on it, it has gained quite the popularity. And it seems that even further on down the line, more and more people are getting into it. And now that, the people from my generation were kids growing up with the Clone Wars, like myself, now we have a voice and we're representing our love for the series. And I think that's wonderful. So instead of this being like a review of the entire series, I just wanted to go over my top 5 reasons why this series is amazing. And there are many reasons why this show is great. I could pick so many points and topics that I could really go over, but in more of a general sense, just to give you guys an idea of, like my main takeaways from the show, I just wanted to list off these 5 things. So the first thing, it's in the title, Clone Wars. It's a focused show on the clones. So even though the clones aren't like the main thing, there are many episodes where clone troopers are a vital part of the episode or the story. And, and that should be obvious, but the thing is it's awesome to see clones outside of the movies, because in the movies they were more robotic, and throughout this series we see the more human side of the clone troopers. We get to basically witness their feelings, their emotions, the way they think. We see basically their lifestyle choices, the decisions they have to make, and we see the struggle, the conflict within themselves. And throughout the series, you see that a lot of them struggle with their purpose, and we also see some clone troopers that break away from the order, which is very interesting, and start their own lives outside of, the Galactic Army of the Republic. So it's really awesome to see, and it's great to see so many great clone commanders and named clones. So that's another thing, throughout the show, we get a bunch of named clone troopers. They're not just, helmeted guys running around. Their commanders and their Jedi generals call them by their names, and I think that's really cool. So my second point is that the new characters are awesome, and there are plenty of new characters throughout this show. And what's great about some of these characters, like Cad Bane, Savage Opress, Asajj Ventress, even though she was, in 03 Clone Wars, she's really fleshed out in this show. But characters like that are just astonishing. And most of my favorite new characters are villains. And the thing is they're so well crafted, and it doesn't contradict anything that happens in the movies. So I think that's really great. And it also shows you how, vast and great and diverse Star Wars is. There's so many different species, so many different characters with ties in, different factions that we never got to see in the movies. And I think that is awesome. So the new characters and their designs were definitely a highlight of the show. And my third point, and it's very general, but the story arcs. This show is known for having episodic arcs, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 episodes, that have the same story. They go, they kind of run into each other. The main story arcs that most people think of, like Umbara, the Mortis arc, these stories are amazing. And, or the Battle over Mandalore, just great episodic arcs. And it's just a great form of like long form storytelling. And I think that that is perfect for Star Wars. Because if you really think about it, most of the movies are very fast paced and they cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. So to, allow a series to breathe, to tell a story, but also keep it exciting, interesting, and well paced, I think this show really has it. So yeah, if you haven't watched the show, you need to watch at least the arcs, okay? And then my fourth point is the focus on the Jedi. I think it's very interesting because, in the prequels, we do see a good bit of the Jedi and the Council and how they work, but a lot of that is explained through this series. And we also see, like, Anakin, like, his fall to the dark side before it happens. You know what I mean? You know how in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, we got that glimpse of, Anakin killing the Tuskens. That was probably his darkest moment. Well, throughout the Clone Wars series, he has a few more of those moments where the rage and the anger gets the better of him, right? Because he cares so deeply about his friends and his family and his fellow brothers and sisters, and that leads to his downfall because he's so focused on keeping them alive, right? And even, you hear it in Revenge of the Sith, and like, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, and then after that, death. So he's going down that path, and we see that. And we also see how he butts heads with the Council, because the way that Anakin Skywalker does things is a lot different than really any other Jedi. And they really explain that in the show as well. His way of thinking is different, and we kind of see that internal conflict within, the Jedi Council, and I think that's awesome. So my last and final point, like I said, there's many other things I'd love to talk about, but this show pushes the boundaries. So one great thing about the Clone Wars is, it's confined in a certain time frame, in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But what makes it so wonderful is they push the boundaries when it comes to lore, like the introduction of the Night Sisters, the Mortis arc, the clone inhibitor chips. There's many things that are explored in this series in depth, and it's very interesting. And some of these things can be jarring at first because your mind's trying to wrap your head around how this works and how it affects other characters, and how, typically the first thing you think of is like, how does this work story-wise? Like, why don't we see these characters in other media? And the thing is now we're seeing that. And I think that's awesome, especially with the new media that's coming out, like, with Ahsoka. We see the return of the Night Sisters. With Book of Boba Fett, spoiler alert, we see Cad Bane. Like, there's great little tidbits and nods back to this series, because this series has made such a huge impact on the lore and the story overall. And, especially, with new characters, I should have mentioned Rex and Ahsoka, the two main ones. But, like seeing their stories, like, they are probably the two main characters of this show, and seeing them and their development and their growth and their trials is absolutely wonderful. So seeing that in the show as well, they really did push the boundaries. Because if you think about it, Anakin's right-hand man, Clone Trooper Captain, we don't see in the movies. Anakin's Padawan, we do not see in the movies. So the fact that they were able to tell these stories and kind of weave them in with the movies and, make it make sense why they were not in the movies is absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I really think that's all I can say based on my topics. There's so much more I would love to say, but let me know what you think of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, if you like this series, if it's one of your favorite pieces of Star Wars or your least favorite. Just explain in the comments down below and we can talk about it, but just keep it civil. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and remember, stay frosty.